Hi, welcome to the Road to Rich podcast. I'm Aaron Rich, your host, and we are going to talk about some incredible stuff today and hopefully have some laughs. It's going to be a great day. I would like to thank Turn Up Studios for hosting our podcast. It's a beautiful studio, great place to do podcasts, so we're grateful to be here. And my guest today is none other than Jason Hedden. And Jason, you are the exec director of Recruitment and Community Relations at Gulf Coast State College. And you're also the owner of Panama City Comedy,
Yes,
which we're going to get into a lot of those topics today. But was there a moment where you decided that you're going to do stand-up? Was there a specific time where you're like, I want to do this?
Well, I don't know. Sometimes in meetings, at work, that well-placed one-liner
Oh, it's super important.
breaks
Yeah.
the tension, right? Or, I was that wannabe class clown. I can remember 5th, 6th grade.
Yeah.
You couldn't get in trouble if the teacher laughed, right? And so if you could just sort of land that well-timed joke, it was a pretty cool feeling.
Yeah.
And so that was always sort of that. My students used to think I was funny. My wife used to think I was funny. So there was always sort of this.
I like
sort
how
of,
you say she used to
Right.
think you're funny.
Yeah, used to. You can either.
She's heard those jokes like 50 times.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm no longer getting laughs at home, so I have to seek them outside of marriage.
Elsewhere.
That's what the stand-up's about. You can either change audience or change material, and I just chose to change audience.
Yeah, keep the same material.
Yeah.
That
So
makes
it's easier.
sense.
So no, I probably, middle school, early high school. I was in theater, and so I was drawn towards comedy. But from a actual stand-up comedy point of view, I never even knew anyone who was a comedian.
Yeah.
We all have friends that gig around town as musicians, but somehow I had never met anyone who did comedy,
Who did stand-up,
even on an amateur level. I've lived all over the country. I don't know how I missed it. I've been in the arts since I was 13. First time I ever stepped into a comedy club, I was performing in a comedy club in my early 40s. So it doesn't really make sense to me how I missed it. But
it's funny. Musicians, though, they're so out there in the public, and
Right.
people see them perform. And I think unless you're specifically going to a comedy show, which we didn't have around here
Yeah.
until recently,
That's true.
Maybe that's why you'd never kind of bumped into somebody. And
I guess, but I would have thought, like in other places I've lived,
Yeah.
where comedy clubs were.
they go, I do
frequent.
stand-up comedy.
But
Yeah.
no, never met anyone. And now I've been introduced to this entire subculture of humanity. And comedians are crazy.
I like the way you say that. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I say it affectionately.
Yeah.
That's probably one of the best things. I'm now friends with people that I never would have met
Yeah.
in the normal course of my day. And
It's a diverse crowd, man. God, even of the folks that I've seen perform at Panama City Comedy,
Sure.
there is such a wide spectrum of humanity that's doing comedy. It's unbelievable.
absolutely. And
Yeah.
some of that is intentional. I try pretty hard to not have an all straight white male lineup. I think it's really important that comedy is not dominated by one voice. And so one of the things we're trying to do is grow the local scene so that we don't always have to pull from out of town, to get diversity in the lineup. And I see it reflected in the audience, and
For sure.
On some level, I feel like I failed a little bit when I look at the thing and it's like, the 5 straight white guys who think they're funny. That's really what the world needs more of, right?
So speaking of straight white guys, when you first started doing performing,
Sure.
like, what do you remember about that first time performing? Did you kill it? Did you bomb it? Did you black out? I mean, like, how did that go?
Well, the first time, so Justin Butler, who was one of my former students at Gulf Coast State College, he went off to University of Central Florida, and when he moved back, he started an open mic somewhere around 2014, 2015. We're trying to write the history of Panama City Comedy. We're arguing over dates. Anyway, he started open mic at Mosey's, and I thought it was going to be a bunch of locals. It was me, my brother-in-law, Justin, and 3 guys drove over from Tallahassee for stage time, for free, because you can practice guitar in your bedroom. Stand-up comedy, you've got to have an audience.
Yeah, you got to have an audience.
Stage time is everything. So I did it that one time, and then I got busy. I was directing a theater at the college and things like that. So he continued to produce a show, maybe once a month, maybe a little more, less frequently. But then in June of 2018, he started a 10 p.m. comedy open mic at Mosey's, which sounds like a horrible time. But for me, it was perfect because I was leaving rehearsal at the college and I was on my way home, and I would stop, and I got hooked. June of 2018.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the world fell apart locally a few months later. And then, I ironically, I got into comedy right around, sort of right just before the hurricane hit here in Bay County. And I think it's no coincidence that that distraction or that sort of journey sort of happened or started about the same time.
It's funny you point that out, because I wouldn't have thought of that unless you said it.
Yeah.
But maybe at that time when things were kind of getting ramped up on the comedy scene, with all the crap we were going through as a community, maybe it's something we just needed, right?
Yeah, maybe. And I think in a lot of our larger venues were out of commission, right? Some of them still aren't back online. And comedy from a space point of view is easy. All we need is a corner in a room, so all of these sort of non-traditional venues started taking us in for comedy. I remember when we started, music was king, and we could never get a Friday or Saturday night.
Yeah.
Fast forward to now, when we have a venue, when we have an opening, I've got venues fighting for us to
awesome.
get us in on a Friday or Saturday night, which is
cool.
which is a pretty cool, sort of progression to see. But I think, I think the distraction was probably good. We were easy to plug and play into non-traditional venues.
Yeah.
And it's relatively inexpensive to produce.
Yeah, to set up and
stage and a mic
awesome.
and a space. So
well, very cool. Well, I'm glad you're doing it. Who are some of your personal comedic influences?
Yeah, sure. It's hard. It varies, I think, every few months. But here recently, I've been really into. There's a guy named Sebastian Maniscalco, who I had never heard of before. Like when I think we're roughly about the same age. When we were kids, we all knew the same comedians because they were just on HBO or Showtime or The Tonight Show or Letterman. There wasn't all these outlets for comedy. There are people now that are sort of niche popular on a certain platform. Sebastian Maniscalco was selling out Madison Square Garden before I had ever heard his name.
Really?
And I was like, how is that?
Wow.
How's that even possible? But what I love about him is he's extremely physical. I mean, almost like a mime in some of his physicality. And I saw him on stage and I'm like, we can do that? I didn't realize we could do that. And in a similar vein, there's a younger comedian named Amber Autry who's on her way up, and she just released a Don't Tell special and some other things. And she, in a similar vein, I've got that theater background, so I see this sort of physicality and the character work in what they're doing, and I'm thinking, man, why don't I do more of that in my comedy? Because I've got it in my toolbox, but I don't necessarily utilize it. So I'm currently attracted to extremely physical comedians because they're doing something I'm not.
Your background plays right into that too, because of the theater background that you have. I think you realize that and understand it, and can incorporate that into what you do too.
Yeah, I see it. I mean, ironically, my theater background, I think, is my biggest strength and my biggest weakness when it comes to comedy. Right?
Yeah. How so?
Well, in the theater, we train actors for the most part to ignore the audience. Right, to throw up this imaginary fourth wall. And unless the play counts for it, if it's some sort of, Saved by the Bell moment where Zach Morris is, spiking the lens and talking directly to us, normally we go to a play and we act like they're not there, and we act like the audience is not there. So when things weren't going well in comedy, I would sort of instinctively revert back to my comedy training, which was to throw up this imaginary fourth wall and ignore the audience, which sounds so dumb to say, which is the absolute worst thing you can do when it's not working. And so it took me time, and I would sometimes have to go, before I went on stage, say, see their faces, look them in the eye. Because it goes downhill quick when you're not acknowledging the reality of the situation or the bomb or the distractions or the whatever. So
I think some of my favorite comedic moments that I recall are ones where the person is interacting with the audience
Sure.
and poking fun of the audience and doing something silly. And, I to me, those are very memorable moments. And the engagement, I think, is part of why people come there, because
Sure.
you are personally engaged in the laughter and the jokes that are going on. So it
Absolutely.
makes sense. Total sense.
Yeah, yeah. And sometimes the challenge, though, is we'll have this improvisational moment, but then figuring out how to get back on track with the planned material. And unfortunately or fortunately, I think a lot of comedy clips that people see online now is crowd work.
Yeah.
So sometimes audiences come think they're helping the show
Yeah.
by interacting. And usually the comedian will take the lead on when it's appropriate and when it's not.
Yeah.
There's a thin line between crowd work and heckling that sometimes gets crossed.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Wait, let me ask you this. When you got started, what was harder for you? Writing jokes, finding your voice, or convincing your wife it wasn't a midlife crisis?
Wow, dude, I don't know that I think I'm still struggling with all of those things.
All those?
All of those things. I'm doing a little better on the third one because, there's been times where a buddy of mine posted something. He's like, my biggest fear is I do this for a long time, and then my family come to me and say, yeah, you kind of need to give it up. But he's like, but I just took my wife on a couple vacations this year, paid for totally by comedy.
Nice.
So there's been some moments where I've been able to contribute above and beyond just self-sustaining Panama City Comedy. And I think that was sort of a moment of like, oh, okay, he's really doing this.
Yeah.
This isn't just a midlife crisis. This isn't, in the grand scheme of midlife crises, it's probably one of the safer ones. But it is
you're preaching to the choir, man. I mean, like I tell people that when they walk in my office, I'm like, hey, you're walking right into my midlife crisis.
Yeah.
Like this is it. It's all there for everybody to see.
It's a little crazy. If I'm being really honest, I don't know 100% why I'm doing it.
Yeah.
I knew I did it initially because I was chair of visual and performing arts at Gulf Coast State College, and the more I got into administrative role, I had less sort of artistic opportunities, right, as an individual.
Yeah.
So comedy at the time was very attractive to me because I didn't have to marry anyone's schedule. It was just me.
Yeah.
I don't have to commit to 6 or 8 weeks of rehearsal. I can just show up and do it. It was very attractive. Ironically, now that this hobby has become a business and has grown and got to the point, I've sort of instinctively created what I did in theater, which was producing and collaborating and directing. So now, ironically, this thing that was my sort of artistic oasis has become a whole nother thing that's just as big as the thing I was leaving.
It's funny how that happens.
Yeah. So
I heard you talk on Kevin's craft series back in the day that you got into doing it, and as you get up there and you tell these jokes and the crowd responds,
Sure.
you get like a rush out of it.
Yeah, that's true.
I would think that would be so rewarding to get up there and make people laugh and make people smile.
Yeah.
That's got to be something that for people that do comedy, it's got to be very addicting to get up there and see that.
It's true. It is. And it still is a rush. My challenge now is that because I'm producing so much, I'm not getting up as much. I'm not writing as much. So it's that whole thing, I worried about as a theater teacher, for years. It's like, you don't want to be that teacher that used to be an actor, right? Because the performing makes you a better teacher and vice versa. So I think the same is true now, but it's a little out of balance right now. In fact, in 2026, I keep saying this out loud, so maybe I'll actually do it. I'm planning to step back a little bit, maybe produce not quite as many dates to build some time in for some sort of reflection on the business. And I know that I can do what I'm doing right now, but I need to figure out if that's what I want to be doing or the way I'm doing it. Maybe I want to do fewer shows but bigger shows. Maybe, but I need to carve out more time to write because that's what's taken the hit. Yeah, is my personal performances.
Well, and the beauty of owning a business is you get to make those choices of where you want to spend your time, and you can always find somebody to help put those shows on too. And
Sure.
so, you know,
Yeah.
it's funny, you're running a non-traditional business, but in a
Right.
lot of ways it's like a traditional business that you have to make those same decisions. So
Right. Yeah,
it's
no.
really interesting.
I appreciate that, and I've enjoyed listening to some of the past episodes here and seeing those parallels. For sure, the good thing about what we do is there's zero overhead. You know, there's zero debt. We partner with other local venues to present comedy. So if I wanted to shut it all down tomorrow, there's no problem. In fact, late spring, I was having a moment where I was ready to just burn it to the ground, and my wife's like, "Okay, maybe slow down." So I put 2 of the venues on hiatus.
We
for
call
2
those
months.
Tuesdays.
Tuesday. Okay, good to know. Good to know. Yeah, I had to. So we compromised, and I put 2 venues on hiatus for 2 months just to free up 1 weekend a month for the summer to give me a little space to sort of breathe and step back. And it was good. And now we're back in hitting it hard here in the fall. But I keep looking at the end of the year and knowing I want 2026 just to look a little different. If nothing else, to buy some time to realize that I miss it.
Yeah.
But right now, with the foot on the gas, there's not enough time for reflection. There's not enough time.
Yeah, you got to get through the season and then assess it that way. Yeah.
So that's
and I've seen Panama City Comedy evolve quite a bit over the last couple of years. How have you personally seen it grow over your period of time?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, initially, like I said, it was, we were doing third Thursdays at House of Bourbon. That was our first real consistent venue. And, venue would never have us on a Friday or Saturday. And now we've got shows almost every Friday and Saturday at, 6 to 8 shows a month. And the biggest thing that's changed probably is the fact that I've moved to another level in terms of producing, where I'm getting invited to comedy festivals around the country as industry, which is pretty cool, because they're basically recognizing what other peers are recognizing what we're doing as beneficial enough to bring Panama City Comedy in to incentivize comedians to go to their festival. And for me, it's great because I can go and see people in person that I can then hire, here in Panama City. We've upped the game in terms of the caliber of comedian that we're booking. I've booked Tim Meadows recently, and Kevin Nealon, and Dusty Slay, and I've got Rory Scovel coming soon, and a guy named Brad Upton. And so it was a whole new thing for me to, deal with agents and contracts and, big time contracts and deposits, wiring someone more money than I've ever been paid to do anything just to hold the date to be able to do it was a little trippy.
Yeah.
But the irony is those bigger names are actually, it's easier to sell because, I had told people Nostalgia alone would have sold those 500 tickets to Kevin Nealon.
Yeah, for sure.
What I didn't expect was how good he was. I knew he'd be good.
Yeah.
But he was a pure stand-up comedian, because a lot of us forget that he was doing that for a decade or more before we ever learned about him on Saturday Night Live. So it was really exciting to see him in that arena up close, and to think that I'm now in a position where I'm hiring guys that I grew up watching on TV feels a little strange.
It's got to be pretty cool,
It
And
is.
I don't care what Tim Meadows says about our crappy town. We got a lot of good things going on.
Oh, we do. Yeah. He enjoyed making fun of the airport for sure.
No, he did. That was hilarious.
Yeah,
and,
it was.
And now I have a totally different perspective on the show Charmed.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. No, it's good. The funny thing is and I've said this in other situations. I have other producers hitting me up and saying, like, how are you doing this? And I'm literally going to their website and, following the instructions, but I will say I have a mentor. There's a guy named JP Leonard over in Lafayette, Louisiana. Shout out Lafayette Comedy, who has been my sort of producing mentor. He's the guy that if I get some jargon or acronyms or something from an agent and I don't even know what it means, I can screenshot it, send it to him. And I'm like, how do I answer
Like,
this?
dude, what's he talking about?
Yeah, how do I answer this? And he has been extremely generous.
It's awesome.
And so that's sort of built a confidence now.
Yeah.
And now when I shoot off an email and I'm trying to book another big name, I can say I've recently presented Kevin Nealon and Tim Meadows and Dusty Slay.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's got to carry weight.
It does.
You know?
It does. It really does.
And you having a mentor in the industry that can tell you those things, that's so important in any walk of business.
Yeah.
And, you got to be able to have somebody who can say, hey, what does this mean?
Yeah. And there's never a question that's that's dumb or, he's extremely generous. And then on the performing side, I've gotten to work with Henry Cho a lot. And he came to Panama City for years. And ironically, I never saw him. He was always at the Martin Theater. Barb McManus brought him every year. And then one of the years, 21, 22, when Martin Theater was performing out at the beach while the venue was unavailable, I had gotten into comedy and I reached out to her. I said, if he needs an opener, and I sent a little video and he watched it and he gave me a couple notes and he brought me out and gave me 5 minutes. And he said, yeah, good job. We'll do it again. And you never know if whatever. Yeah. So then I didn't know the etiquette. So I just sort of started going online, looking at his schedule. I saw where he was going to be and I'd hit him up and I'd be like, hey, so you're going to be in Dothan. If you need an opener, I'm available. So 3, 4, 5 different times I sort of, did that. And then I got a text one day. I had been emailing him, including my phone number. And he said, do you want to MC for me at the Stardome in Birmingham this weekend? And I didn't know who it was or what it was from. I'm sure I even knew what that meant. Right. And I'm like, I had to do that embarrassing thing where you're like, sorry, who is this?
Yeah.
And he's like, is this Jason Hedden? I'm like, yeah. He said, this is Henry Cho. And I'm like, oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah. So I went and did that show and it went really well. So the confidence comes from the experience. Yeah. Right. Sure. And then you get bold enough to have get other opportunities. And so I'm seeing that on both the performing side and the producing side as well. I played the Sanger Theater with him earlier this year, big auditorium. I don't know, 1,200 people, something like really that, cool. Which was probably doubled the size of an audience I'd ever performed for comedy or theater for that matter. That's the irony. I'm now performing in theaters with bigger comedians that are larger than I've ever performed theater in. Yeah. And I've been doing theater since I was 13. So it's just, it's strange. Amazing, yeah. But it is cool and exciting. And I just need to figure out how I want to define success in this, because I know what I don't want to do. Well,
and you have personal success as a stand-up, but you also have the success of the business and the success of the other comedians there. Right. So you're wearing a couple hats.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So when you write jokes, a lot of comedians will pull from personal experience. So are you pulling from personal experience, or are you just making up stuff while you're sitting on the toilet?
Yeah. I have 3 people in my family, my wife and my son, and I'm the third funniest person in my family for sure. My biggest laughs every time are literally just quoting my wife and son on stage. Yeah. So my son, I call him my head writer, and I made the mistake once of sometimes we get tipped out in cash, and I had a bunch of ones that they were just kind of all crinkled or whatever, so I gave them to him, and I told him it was his royalties. So now for the last 5-6 years, every week or so, he's like, "Hey, where's those royalties, Dad?" So he comes to expect them. Nice. Just here's the weird balance: is you got to be living life to be experiencing things that you can then take to the stage. Yeah. If the only thing you're doing is just comedy and going from, I think this is what happens sometimes when comedians get really big, that they're no longer in the same trenches of life that sort of got them to where they are. And so then writing material becomes different. But I glean from family experiences and stories and things like that. One of the things I'm trying to do is be more deliberate. All my writer friends in whatever the medium is, say you got to dedicate that time to sit down and write, and that's one of my ongoing goals. But that's what I'm
it's hard to find that quiet
it's what I'm
time.
Not doing enough of is just the the generating. The typical thing is I'll come up with an idea. I have an app. I have, throw it into Google Drive on my phone. Then I'll go through that list. We have an open mic every Wednesday. I'll try things out at the open mic.
See if it works.
Yeah. And then if it works, sandwich it in between tried and true material at an actual show.
Yeah.
That's, in theory, that's the best way to do it.
And you have to do it in front of a live audience,
Yeah. The weird thing is, we're very fortunate. Our open mic every Wednesday over at St. Andy's Sports Pub feels like a show because people come just to watch that aren't comedians. You go out of town, and the cliche is that most open mics are just a bunch of, 20-year-old white guys sitting in the back of the room not laughing. They're just waiting for their turn to go up. But here we've really got an audience of people that come to just so it feels supportive. I tell the younger comics in the scene, I'm like, hey, if this is the only mic you've ever been to, you've never been to an open mic. You need to go where there's 4 people in the audience that are just waiting for their turn to go up. But having people actually respond to material is a better test of whether the joke has legs.
I would sure think so.
Yeah.
So, yep. True story. If you're sitting on the toilet writing jokes, you're a head writer.
Yeah. Nice.
Yep. Hey, question for you. So you talk about the open mics and when you get out there and people are getting started, have you ever had a time where you bombed, and did you learn something from it, or did it just leave you with emotional scars?
Both. Yeah. Both. Yeah. No, I bombed pretty hard. My biggest bomb is, I opened for Todd Herendeen at one of his Elvis shows once. I was only like a year or 2 into comedy, and I asked him if I could be on the show, and he was extremely generous. And he's like, "Sure, yeah, we'll put you up between music sets, like play a music break, basically." And he's like, and I was like, "How much time do you need?" He's like, "How about you do 2 15-minute sets?" That's a crazy amount of material.
That's a really long time.
Like I'm 6-7 years in, and I only have 30 minutes of material good enough to go out of town and have people pay me to do. So to think I could do 30 minutes then was really dumb. It didn't help that nobody knew there was going to be a comedian on the show. They were only there for
the music.
Todd as Elvis.
I was going to say that would be an unusual crowd.
It was weird, and the average age of the audience was about 94. And I went out there. At the time, I'd opened with this joke where I wore a fanny pack and I juggled, and I can still see the disappointed faces in those Elvis fans. And then I had to come back out.
You should have told Elvis jokes.
Oh, I wish I had some. And what I learned from that, though, is I sort of blamed the audience. I'm like, oh, well, they're just not into it. They're not. But then Todd came out there, and he's a pro, and he has these sort of one-liners that he weaves in between the songs and the sort of patter and stuff that we enjoy from artists that we like to watch. And I was like, oh yeah, it's not the audience, it's me. So I bombed hard. The only laugh I got the whole night was there was this one table. There was a guy who was like my age. He was wearing one of those baby Bjorn carriers, and he had like an infant in this carrier, and then a toddler that he's walking around with. And all the tables were labeled with numbers, like and table 45. I said, was this the babysitting table? What are you doing, man? And I would check in with him when I came on stage. Those were the only laughs I got the whole night. So it was tough.
So this ties in nicely to my next question. How important is a crowd's level of sobriety to comedy?
Well, we say the drunker you are, the funnier we are. But that's only true in
I'm here for you.
Right. In that it maybe breaks down some inhibitions. There's quickly a line where too much drinking is not a good thing.
Yeah.
To be honest, my favorite shows that I've ever done have been theater shows where we perform out at Emerald Coast Theater Company. I'm one of the co-founders and board member out there in Sandestin. And that's a crowd that's a theater crowd. They're used to it. In fact, we build an intermission in, and the comedians get really nervous because that's not great for momentum of a comedy show. But I say, don't worry. It's a theater audience. They are used to it. So we'll have a host and then a feature comedian, intermission. The host will come back out, do 5 minutes, get the audience back, bring up the headliner. Goes great every time. So I enjoy those audiences where everyone's got to be there on purpose for comedy. We don't do free bar shows anymore, right? There's nothing. I remember doing a show over at I think it's now it was the Funky Mermaid.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yep.
When it was Funky Mermaid, weird layout building. It was almost like an L shape from where the stage was and the bar was. So it was not a great venue for comedy because most people couldn't see the performance space. And I remember doing a show there once, and Dale Parker was there trying to eat dinner with his family. And I'll never forget, he's just sort of cutting his food, and I'm up there telling jokes, and he just looks up and goes, and I thought, me too, Dale, me too, man. I know, I'm sorry. So we don't do that anymore. We don't want to bombard people. You're trying to go out for your friends for a drink or for and there's a dork in a polo shirt telling jokes in the corner. That's not fun for anybody.
That's a great point that I wouldn't think about. That when you go to a comedy show, you're going to laugh, and I think your brain is ready for that.
Yes.
If you're just out like eating dinner or having a drink somewhere, like you're not tuned into it.
You can have background music.
Sense.
You can have background music.
Yeah.
You can't have background comedy. It requires it's hard enough when everything's working. You have to have the undivided attention of the audience. So that's why we don't do shows, free shows. I mean, even if the venue's paying us, we won't do it unless it's a ticketed show for the most part. Yeah, that's true. We want everyone there to be personally invested.
That's smart. Makes sense.
In the success of it. Yeah.
Absolutely. What advice would you give to somebody who is looking to get into stand-up?
Don't do it. Yeah, absolutely. Don't do it. Do something easier.
Don't do what I do.
No, absolutely not. People keep asking me when are you going to teach like a workshop? Here's the workshop. Write down stuff that you think is funny. Go to an open mic and try it. And make sure you record, at least audio, what you did. And go back and review the tape. That's really all I got.
Listen to yourself.
That's all I got. Yeah. It's just every comedian you've ever met. That's how they started. Well, now I think some people are transitioning over from social media. That's a whole different podcast.
Well, and it's funny that now in the social world, people get a following on social platforms doing things and then transition that.
Yeah.
As opposed to doing stand-up first.
It is. Yeah, it's a weird thing, too, because sometimes those people don't have an act.
Yeah.
But they have a following.
Yeah.
But it puts butts in seats. Even a few years ago, I remember talking to some club owners out of state, and they were sort of real struggling because they're like, this person is not a good comedian. Well,
being funny on camera does not translate to being funny in front of a crowd.
That's true. That's
what I was asking.
But they could fill up the venue 4 times in a row.
Yeah.
So the people that have been the smartest, I think, know that they're the name draw. They fill out the rest of the lineup with really strong comedians. So it is a great show. And then there's other people, like there's a local comedian named Malcolm Xavier, and he's very good, very good. He had a big social media following before he ever got into comedy. And I really respect him for his approach to it. He wanted to get good. He wanted to get solid 45 minutes, to an hour before he starts leveraging his social media numbers for bookings. Now, with the numbers he has, he could get booked some places he's never been before. Wow. But he's self-aware enough to know that when he gets that opportunity, he wants to be able to deliver and not just have 10 or 15 minutes of material. Because you're right, sometimes that it doesn't always translate. And there are obviously exceptions, and there's no right way to do it. I know a lot of the old guard comedians are getting real bent out of shape that these young bucks are coming in and not paying their dues. But there's no rules. Everyone's trying to break through the noise and put butts in seats. And
how do you balance having local presence in your comedians along with some of the national acts? How do you balance that with what you do?
So the big names, like we've mentioned, the Dusty Slays, the Kevin Nealons, those names, I only do a few of those a year. And those are sort of, I call them, or somebody called them firework shows, right? So these are that just sort of draw attention. We've got people that will only come to those big shows. But, it helps us build a following. It helps us build a reputation. I try to get some of the local comedians to open for them. As a former theater teacher, I do like to try to give opportunities for people. In my life, the growth has come from those times I was given an opportunity that I wasn't maybe quite ready for. But trying to balance that with the overall quality of the show is sometimes a little risky. So what we'll do is we'll go to the open mic on Wednesday, and if I see someone who's consistently pretty strong, I'll give them a guest spot on a paid show. So that means basically they're working for free for 5 minutes, but they're getting to be on a show with stronger comedians.
Is it like building a resume that way?
Sort of. I mean, I think it's building confidence and building stage time. This is one of my favorite things about comedy that I don't see in any other area I've ever worked. I'll never play basketball with LeBron, right? But the way comedy is structured, particularly in the typical club setting, there's a host, a feature, and a headliner. It's not uncommon for these three people to come from different parts of the country and different levels of their career. Because producers like me, I want to know where you fit. Are you a host? Are you a feature? Are you a headliner? So I've been on shows before where I'm hosting, the guy or girl in the middle is more experienced. And then, of course, the headliner is way more experienced. So when the personalities align, the kind of mentorship that happens in one 90-minute show is pretty darn cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
That, we're not, we're not going to, whoever your favorite podcaster is, right? We're not going to be invited to Working It Out with Mike Birbiglia tomorrow, based on this interview.
Yeah, it's more of a gradual build.
It's more of a gradual build.
Yeah.
But it's not unlikely for me to get on a show with a nationally known comedian based on just the structure of the model. And I find that part particularly cool.
That is pretty awesome.
And scary.
Well, and I've heard some of the local folks that are pretty darn funny.
Yeah,
so.
No, absolutely. There are some local people. I remember when we sort of started out, it was like there was only a couple of us that could do 15 minutes. And now I could do a really strong show with just local comedians.
People. Yeah,
absolutely.
The last time I heard Scotty Jernigan, he made me cry. So
Scotty,
he said the joke about the most useless thing is a dream catcher in a trailer park, and I was dying, man.
Yes, yeah. Dream catchers and trailer parks have it easy. Yeah, man. So I love Scotty because he is like watching. I'm not a baseball guy, but he's like one of those really exciting hitters. Yeah, because he strikes out or he hits a home run.
But sometimes his strikeouts are funny too, the way he delivers them. And like sometimes they're so terrible, everybody's like, oh.
No, and I say that because it makes him so much more exciting to watch. Yeah. I've never gotten laughs like Scotty's gotten. But I also don't bomb as often as Scotty does because what he's doing is way riskier than what I'm doing. People either get him right away or they don't get him at all. Yeah, but when they get him, there's nobody funnier.
Yeah.
Nobody. I love that.
I think a lot of that is finding your audience, like there's a bunch of people that like his style,
absolutely.
And if that's what kind of comedy you like, I mean, like he's hilarious from, if that's your style.
Absolutely. Yeah. And some people, it just takes them, if he's doing a shorter set, it takes him a few minutes to even figure out what is he doing. Yeah. But gosh, he's so good. So good.
So with your background in education and the things that you've done for the college, how does that and what you do for Panama City Comedy, how do they complement each other?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you for asking. I went to a comedy festival a couple years ago, and in those situations, you're going and performing with people that you don't know. You're walking into a room and you're doing your 5 minutes to an audience you don't know, to comedians you don't know, and there's a sense of trying to. You want to justify your existence in the room, right? Like, I'm supposed to be here. I'm good enough to be here. And I had a really good set at one of those festivals because the night before I had gone to that room and I had watched people perform, and it was a very intimate setting. And I noticed that they were just talking like you and I are talking.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, we can do that? Because I had a little bit of like cha-cha-cha, a little stage whatever, shtick, residue. I don't know what it was. And so that really helped me. When I got back from that festival, we had an event at the college. There was a local corporation that was doing some training upstairs in our building at the Charles Hilton Center. And I had been wanting to get together and meet with some of the CEO and the HR director of that company, because we were talking about tuition reimbursement and that sort of stuff for their employees.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they were on their lunch break, and I messaged a colleague and I said, "Can you get me in there?" And I went up during their lunch break, and they were very gracious, but I could see they'd been training all day, doing corporate training, and the last thing they probably wanted to do was talk to me. But we were sort of the host venue, and they were polite professionals, and they gave me my 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And it went really well because I knew exactly what to say.
Yeah.
I knew what my mission was. I was prepared, and I walked out of that meeting downstairs past a colleague, and I was like, I just killed it. And he's like, what? Is everything okay? What a roach?
No, that's good. That's comedy.
Yeah, what are you doing? What? No. And I realized in that moment that it was the exact same feeling. It was a different script.
Yeah.
It was a different audience. But I
you
realized.
You knew that you read that audience.
I did.
And
I was in that moment, I realized I was only able to do what I just did at the college because of what I had done the weekend before.
Yeah.
And it was this sort of like aha moment where I realized that these skills are transferable and they are feeding one another. And it's not my weird comedy secret that I have to hide, in the corner. I'm getting to the point now where more people are recognizing me for, or just as many are recognizing me for comedy as they are for my work at the college.
Yeah.
And at first
sure.
I was a little embarrassed by that. But now I think the overlap is healthy, and I see the crossover. So
well, and that's why I was asking, because to me it feels like there's parallels for you, but also for what you do for other people too. There's parallels, like
Sure.
You encouraging people to try stand up, and you encouraging people to get into college and do these things that they're doing.
Sure.
You're helping steer these people and get brave in life, and I felt like there was a parallel not just for you, but also for the people that you work with.
No, I appreciate that. Yeah, thank you, because I do have, with students and things like that. I say at the college, at Gulf Coast State College, we're in the opportunity business, and I believe that because I've been given amazing opportunities there. I was a student here at Gulf Coast from '95 to '97. I went off to South Florida. I moved to Seattle, and then I did grad school in Ohio, and then I taught high school in California. The only thing that would have brought me back to Bay County was to work at the college. And a position opened up, and Rosie O'Bork, who was my teacher then and my mentor, she told me that I should apply, and gave me that opportunity maybe before I was fully ready for it. And that's been an ongoing theme of having people in my life who believe in me more than I believe in myself.
It's awesome.
And man, thank you for saying that, because I need to remember to intentionally create opportunities to potentially be that person for someone else.
Well, and I think you are, Jason. I think you're believing in other people in a couple different aspects in your life, sometimes before they're believing in themselves. And that's a beautiful thing about what you're doing, man.
Right.
So.
Right. Well, no, I appreciate that.
Yeah. Awesome. So if you look ahead the next 5-10 years, what do you hope that your impact is? Not just with the comedy, but also at the college. Right. What do you hope you've accomplished in those next 10 years?
Sure. Yeah. Well, from a comedy point of view, I frequently function, I don't know, and in life in general, I often don't know what I want, but I know what I don't want. And so I know I don't want to be, what's best case scenario for me right now? Henry Cho says, hey, Jason, I want you to be my full-time opener. And so I go on the road with Henry Cho. I don't want to do that. I don't want to be away from my family all the time. And so that's not it. So I think I wanted to continue to help contribute to the artistic scene here in Bay County. Very proud to be part of that. That we've got. I always say we're punching above our weight class in terms of the arts for the size of our community. Visual art, music, comedy, whatever it is. And so I think I want to continue to be part of that. I'm super excited for the Martin Theater to open back up. It'll be close to 500 seats. That's where I want these bigger names that I'm bringing in to be. That's where I want them to be. I have, in some ways, I could wait until the Martin's ready, rather than having folks in venues that aren't ideal. But I'm not willing to wait till the conditions are perfect. Yeah. That's at least one lesson that I've learned along the way. At the college as well, I'm in a unique position where I'm technically a recruiter for the college. I'm an administrator over the dual enrollment program and veteran services. So I kind of have my hands in a lot of different areas. Mm-hmm. So just sort of continuing to learn and grow things there at the college. I have amazing mentors at the college as well. And so excited to see how the college grows, and lots of opportunities. I'm smart enough to know that I don't know what's on the horizon, and to be okay with that.
Yeah.
Because what I'm doing right now wasn't even on my radar 6 years ago. Yeah, if you told me I wouldn't be working in visual and performing arts, at the college, I would have told you were crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, that was my whole life.
Yeah.
Or if you told me that I would be producing stand-up comedy, I would say you were nuts. So I won't be bold enough to guess to predict, what the thing is. Yeah. But I love being around education. I love being at the college and just in that environment. Of seeing people get those opportunities. Yeah, for sure. Well, you've definitely been passionate about everything I've ever seen you do. Yeah. And when you follow your passion, man, great things happen. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, awesome. Thank you. So if you could pick one comedian, dead or alive, that could perform for Panama City Comedy, who would it be? Oh, wow. Oh, for Panama City Comedy, dead or alive. I never got to see Robin Williams do stand up. Oh, that's a great one. Yeah. So I think maybe that. I know he didn't do a lot of stand up in the later years, and there was some controversy around him when he was doing comedy. He was accused of stealing material, but maybe not in the traditional sense. The way his mind was just working so fast. My opinion is he was sometimes gleaning things and just regurgitating it and morphing and improvising it in a way that I think sometimes he wasn't. If he was lifting material, I think it was maybe not a conscious effort. We had a comedian recently in town named Dale Jones, and he was as close to that type of energy that I've ever seen. From what you see watching Robin Williams. So yeah, I'll go with. It's amazing how his brain worked, and just man, God, he's just in so many different places. Yeah, just the characters and all the outtakes from his voiceover work and stuff like that. They could create 4 more movies of the genie based on just the extra stuff, just his ad libs. And so I think that would be thrilling. I think to see in person. That's a great choice. I think I would have chosen Sam Kinison just to see the reaction of the people around. Sure. I was always a big Sam fan when I was when I was younger. Yeah, so. Just that yelling and the energy, man. That energy. Yeah. There's a fantastic comedian who's more of he's still with us. A guy named Derek Stroop who has this sort of ranty sort of not yelling, but sometimes I think his Instagram is something like Derek Yells or something like that. But he's got that. But he's that style, really strong style, and he's doing some really big things. We had him booked, and then had some scheduling things. That's the big challenge with booking these bigger names. The chances of them having to reschedule is much higher. Yeah, and so you get a little nervous, and you just counting down to the day, because if they've got outs in their contracts, as they should, if they get a movie deal or they get something like that. So it's like but we've got some exciting things. No, that's pretty awesome. In the future, yeah, definitely a lot of good stuff happening. So the folks out there, how can they find out about Panama City Comedy? Sure, we try to make it really easy. It's just PanamaCityComedy.com, We're Panama City Comedy on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, and 3 social medias is about all I could handle. But it's all there. There's a newsletter you can sign up for on the website. Send a weekly email. Usually include promo codes. You get advanced opportunities to buy tickets for the big shows that are coming up. And then we've got an open mic as well every Wednesday at St. Andy's Sports Pub. So I run into people around town. Sometimes there's people that'll come and they'll watch for 3 or 4 weeks. And then you see this little spark in their eye.
They're thinking about
They're
it.
like, you going up? You going up? You going up? And they're like, maybe next week, maybe next week.
Yeah.
But if you come long enough and you realize, oh, this isn't
not that scary.
rocket science what we're doing here.
Yeah.
And it is a very welcoming scene. So yeah, it's all on Panama City Comedy on the socials. But
that's awesome. And I definitely recommend subscribing to their newsletter and keeping in touch with the great shows that are coming up. You guys have done a great job in growing it, and I've gone out to a couple different shows, and it's awesome, man. I've really enjoyed what you've put together. So I appreciate you doing that. And just as far as what you do in the community in general, man, I know you do a ton, and I've always appreciated you for that. So thank you for all your work.
Well, thank you. The feeling is mutual. Been a fan. I'm not a big podcast guy, I'll be honest. I listen to Working It Out with Mike Birbiglia, and I've been listening to your podcast. So
awesome.
There's only 2 on my list right now.
I
You're one of them.
appreciate being part of the esteemed crowd there with Birbiglia. So,
absolutely, absolutely. I get a lot from it, and we said off air that to have an opportunity to sit down and talk to somebody. We've probably spoken more in this time than we have in the entire time we've known each other. Yeah,
and that's the beauty of being able to do this, man.
So I get it. I get it.
And to be able to learn more about the person you're sitting across from, I just think in today's world, we don't have a lot of opportunities of quiet time where we get to do that. And that's the beauty of the podcast is we get to have these conversations. It's uninterrupted. My kids aren't pulling on me and phone calls not coming in and text buzzing me. Yeah. We actually can focus on a conversation. So I appreciate you having one with me today.
And I'm a big fan of your fishing adventures as well.
Heck yeah, man.
My son and I really enjoy fishing, and we had a really good trip recently.
Awesome. Well, we will definitely have to talk fishing sometime soon.
Sweet.
So.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, Jason, thank you so much for being on today. And y'all, thanks for tuning in to another episode of The Road to Rich. Keep going out there and trying to grow your business. And, if you have lessons along the way, share them with us and listen to the folks like Jason who have incredible insights into growing business. And thanks for tuning in today. Appreciate it.